A few years ago, someone emailed me and wanted to write for Managing Madrid. And they did write one piece. They wrote a player ratings for a game. I have no idea what game it was now. It was so long ago. But they wrote the player ratings and we didn't really hear from this person again. Until a few weeks passed and this person emailed me and said, "Hey Keon, sorry for being MIA. I don't want to write for Managing Madrid anymore because the comments on those player ratings were so bad that I just don't want to write for your website anymore." And we said, "Okay, cool. The show goes on, we move on. Never heard from this person again. I hope wherever they are, they're happy, they're healthy, and they're crushing it in life." And I didn't really think about that moment or that person again until recently, because this theme of caring what other people think has come up quite a bit, both with my clients, but also just people in general who I've been speaking to for some reason. This has been a common theme. And I thought about this person. And I started to really feel bad for this person in retrospect. And I feel bad for anybody who really cares what people think of them. I think there's a time and place for caring about what people think, but it's certainly not in the comment section. And if you worry about what people say in the comment section, I actually worry about you in your life, because typically if you're a person who gets in their head for that, you're probably in your head for many situations, not just online, not just social media, not just comment section, but also in general in life. Maybe you're in the same room, in a specific room, a crowd of people. You're thinking about like, oh, what do people think about me? And you're in your head. You need to get rid of that. And I know it's easier said than done, but let me put things into perspective. We are so insignificant on this earth that to think that we're important enough to really care what people think of us in a comment section, it's a little bit egotistical if you ask me. We're on an earth and it's a fleeting existence. In the grand scheme of things, if you zoom out, we're really on this planet for 10 seconds. If you just stretch it out and think about just the history of the universe. How much do people actually care about us for us to actually care what they think of us? Why do we care so much about this? Think about this for a second. How much do we think about even the most famous person ever? Who's the most famous person in the world right now? I don't know. Maybe I should have looked up who has the biggest social media following in the world. Is it Kim Kardashian? I assume it's her because I think at one point a couple years ago it was her. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's Donald Trump. Maybe it's, I don't know, in the football world it's probably Cristiano Ronaldo. They're the most famous, right? How much do we actually collectively think about these people? How much do they come up in our everyday lives? For us, in this football journalism world, and people listening to this podcast, maybe somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo comes up every day. That's fair. That's a specific niche. How much does Cristiano Ronaldo come up in everyday life conversation? And even when he does come up, how much do we actually care enough about this person? How much do we actually think about him, and how much does he occupy our minds? Now, that's the peak of it, right? Kim Kardashian, Cristiano Ronaldo, that's the very peak of famousness. We're certainly never going to achieve that. And even if we do, I guarantee you most of us, we wouldn't be happy to be in that situation. So even if we get to a level where we're famous, how much are people actually talking about us, and how much do people care? It doesn't matter. Even the most famous person gets brought up only so often. And even when they're getting brought up, they're not getting brought up in the most positive light all the time. And so for us to actually care what people think, it means that we think we're more important than we are. Let me tell you something about the people who comment something negatively on the comment section. That person is within 10 seconds of posting something negative, they've already forgotten about you. They've already forgotten. They're on to the next thing to complain about. So understand that the person who complains and is always negative, that's their problem. It's not your problem, okay? That's their problem. They're dealing with their own internal demons and internal battles that they have to figure out, that they have to deal with. It has nothing to do with you. Our human brain is wired, unfortunately, in a certain way that we always focus on the negative thing, right? So this happens a lot with me. This happens a lot with everyone I know. I don't think there's a journalist who is immune to this necessarily. But we all kind of have it subconsciously, and we have to kind of just put it aside and learn to not care so much. If 99% of people on your comments are like, wow, this is great. Great analysis. Thanks so much, man. Thank you. I can see how much effort you put into this article and these player ratings. I can see how much you cared about the subject you're writing about. Thank you so much. Great article, great analysis. Thank you. But then there's that 1%, the one human being out of 100 who was like, this is bullshit. Are we focusing on the 99%, or are we focusing on the 1%? The human wired is to focus on the 1%. Like, how dare he not like my article? How can he not like it? Unfortunately, what we should be doing is we should be going and thanking everybody who thanks us for the great analysis, right? But our brain is unfortunately not wired that way. And that person who comments on the 1%, and likewise even the 99%, as soon as they comment, they've already forgotten about you and your article, whether it was good or bad. So for us to even care what they think, it doesn't matter. They're on to, after that, you know where they're going? They're going to fight they're going into the comments of a Trump tweet or something, and they're fighting there about something else, or they're going somewhere else and fighting. So they've already forgotten about you. And again, like going back to like, how much do we even think about or care about the legacy of the most famous person in the world? Even they, like, the earth is just going to blow up one day. I hate to break it to you. We're all going to die. None of this matters. We all turn to dust. Who cares? None of this matters. Like, it really just doesn't matter. Who cares? Enjoy your life and just treat it like, you know, if you look back and if your life was a movie, are you going to think about like, oh man, you know what the best part of that movie was? When I got angry and upset and in my head and down and depressed because somebody didn't like my player ratings. Are you going to look back and reflect on that like that was the best moment of your life? Or are you going to reflect like, man, I wrote this player ratings. It was awesome. And then after that, I went out and I did this. I went on an adventure. Whatever it is, whatever that movie is for you, make sure when you look back on the movie, it's epic. It's fun. And certainly like the definition of epic, no matter what you think epic is, I don't care. Everyone's definition of epic will be different based on their interests, but it certainly is not getting down over somebody who got mad at you in a player rating section. Just like tune it out and move on. That person has their own problems they're dealing with, their own battles, and trust me, that person is probably miserable inside. You can kind of just tell by the energy of, you know, kind of where somebody's head is at and where they are at in life. This is why one of the journalism corners like a few episodes ago, it was about like, just don't turn into that guy. I'm very passionate about this. I don't want any of you to turn into that guy who throws one-liners and argues with people on Twitter and social media and comment sections. Because I can tell you that if you're doing that online, whether it's anonymous or with your name behind it, something's wrong in your inner life, in your inner state, that you have the need to manifest this and drag others down with you. So I don't want any of you to turn to that person, and I certainly don't want any of you to be affected by somebody who comments on your articles and argues with you and tries to drag you down. Their goal, their life dream is to drag you down with them. Don't get dragged in. Don't get sucked down. So when you're writing articles and when you're putting out podcasts, whatever it is you're doing, maybe it's a tweet, maybe it's a social media post, understand that people's opinions of you and people's opinions on everything change constantly. People they're constantly changing their minds about everything, right? So somebody who hates you or hates your article that day will, on another day, maybe read something they really like about you, or maybe they, for some reason, on a different day, they resonate with what you wrote more, that they'll become your fan that day. And then it's a cycle. Another day, they'll hate you again. They'll love you and hate you. They'll love you and hate you. We see this every day on our podcast. We see it. We see people who send us hate mail. We see people who hate our tweets, hate our articles, hate our podcasts, and then the next week they're becoming a patron. They're one of our biggest supporters, like for like a year straight, and then they may fall off again. They may come back. It's a revolving door, man. It's a revolving door, open, close. People come in and out of your life because their own life is kind of like a roller coaster, and that's okay. Just submit to it. Submit to the universe. The universe does not care about your mental health in a comment section. The universe just is telling you basically like, life goes on. It's constantly changing. It's up and down. There's rock bottom. There's peaks. There's valleys. And one day the earth will blow up. And if we escape the earth, then one day, you know, something will happen and something in space. I'm not an astronomer, but I just know that everything, every like planet ultimately is finite. And beyond that, I don't know. Like, so like this, in the grand scheme of things, we're on this earth for like 10 seconds. Some of us may die tomorrow. Some of us may die in 100 years. It doesn't matter. So don't get worked up about what people think about you. Now, disclaimer, because there always needs to be a disclaimer before anyone does something and then says, well, Keon told me to do this. You care about what people think to an extent because we have moral guidelines, right? It's 2020, and as messed up as 2020 is, thank God for 2020 for some things, in like for the fact that we're all being recorded constantly. Like, we have cell phones, we're being held accountable, and thank God for that accountability, because it keeps us in check. It keeps keeps some sort of justice. And, we're starting to see things that we didn't necessarily see before because we have cell phone recordings, which, are very helpful for holding people accountable and upholding the law. And so I'm not telling you to go and do whatever you want because you shouldn't care what people think of you. I'm just saying, like, understand, like, when it comes to showing your beliefs and putting out content that stem from your beliefs, don't get worked up if someone doesn't agree with you. It doesn't matter. Don't care so much what people think. And adopt that not just in your articles, but in your life. Are you so scared to speak and to put things out there because you're worried what people think about you? You're just not going to stand out. This is like, there's so much noise in this world that if you really want to leave a trail behind and leave a legacy behind, you have to be brave, you have to be charismatic, and you have to put things out there and be afraid to ruffle some feathers. So I always say, like, when you put out content, there's always people like on the fence with you, right? And when they're on the fence, it means like, they haven't really made up their mind about you or what you're about to write. They're going to wait and see. And so what you don't want to do is keep them on the fence. You want to knock them over either in your side or out of favor with you. Because if you put something and they're still on the fence with you, it just kind of means that you didn't write anything life-changing enough. You didn't write anything daring. You didn't teach them anything new. And there's nothing there for them to either become a fan or to dissuade them from you. So either way, you want to knock them off the fence. So when I write something, if I truly believe something and I have the data, the science, the eye test, and the sample size, everything behind what I believe in, and I put it out there, I'm going to knock some people off the fence, either in favor of me or I'm going to polarize them the other way and they're going to hate me. And then maybe the next time, that person will go back on the fence with me, and then maybe the third time they'll be on the fence in my favor. Always be daring and be willing to knock people off the fence. And if you're not knocking people off the fence either way, it means you're not really putting anything out there that's really changing the world enough or changing the industry enough. Shake things up. Be bold. Don't make shit up. Be authentic. I'm not saying put people off the fence just for the sake of it. If you're just putting out stuff out there you don't believe in. If you believe in something, put it out there and back it up. And don't be afraid to knock people off the fence. I'll leave you with this. One of my favorite quotes from Arnold Schwarzenegger, the great Arnold Schwarzenegger. He said, "Break the rules, not the law. Break the rules."